All right, what's up, guys? VV back with another video. And in today's video, guys, it's time to do a tier list. That's right, I did one about a month ago now. I try to wait every 2 to 3 months to do a tier list. But with the new announcements for the bans, we're going to be doing a post-ban list tier list, right? Post-bans tier list. There we go. And we're going to try something else a little bit different this time as well. Notice my tiers over on the left. I've got top 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. So understand real quick, guys, for those who are not aware, there are already 100 leaders in the game. These are all the leaders in the game right here. There are 100 of them, okay? That goes into, as of OP11. Once the OP11 leaders come out, then that will be 100 of them, right? So hear me out. And I mean, guys, it is like 100 on the dot, I believe, at the time you're recording this. So hear me out. We're going to be trying something a little bit different this time. See how you guys like it. We're going to be doing a top 50 tier list, okay? I think even maybe a top 20 or a top 30 list might be better in the future. But I think this will be a lot of fun for today's video. Some people might be sad. Some people might be upset that their leader won't be on here. But again, we're going to be doing a top 50 list. Top 10 being the absolute best decks in the format if you're trying to go to like a regional level tournament or some big tournament and win, or even locals, whatever. Top 20 being like, okay, it can probably still peak its, top 20 and top 30 are going to be decks that can probably poke their way into local wins, maybe get top placings out of regional, and then 40 and 50, they're on the doorstep, they're trying to make their way into the conversation, right? Hopefully that will make sense as we get to it. Okay, all right, with that in mind, guys, let's go ahead and hop into today's video. I don't know if this will matter for today's video, but I'll have everything timestamped down in the general description, and I'll have all relevant deck lists and links and things like that in the comment section below, okay? Because of the nature of this video, there might not be much to timestamp. Maybe I'll try to do 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. We'll have to see, we'll kind of play it by ear. But okay, guys, if you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please do not hesitate to put those down in the comment section below, or hop on the VV Theory Discord. Link is in the channel description. This video is sponsored by Nin Garden. Their latest spring collection just dropped with 3 new designs, and to celebrate, they are running a spring sale. Buy one, get any classic mat 40% off with the code SPRINGSALE. Plus, use NIN10 for an automatic 10% off at the checkout. You can stack this with my promo code, the VV Theory, for an additional 5% off, bringing you to a total of 15% total savings on top of the 40% off. All right, guys, so let's get into this tier list. We got a lot to unpack here. A few things up front, though. We're trying a different format here. Notice I have this black censor bar that kind of stops you from seeing anything above where we're at, because I already have this entire list laid out. So understand that up front. We're going to try a slightly different formatting this time. We're going to do more of like a countdown style format. So bear with me on that if things are a little shaky, if things are a little clumsy. We're just trying something new. Other than that, let me say a few other things. We're going to be doing OP10 first. This is, of course, post-ban list. The bans come into bans go into effect on April 1st. Okay, so we're talking after the bans come into place, and then we're gonna do OP10 first, then OP11. Okay, so keep that in mind. And when I say OP10, I am kind of considering some things from EB02 because we do have a green-purple Luffy leader that I already have on the list, even though he's not technically out yet for the West. You just have to bear with me with that stuff, guys, because it comes out at different timings. But we'll talk about that more as we get into it later. So OP10's first, then we have OP11. That's why the OP11 leaders are at the very top row down there. And then what else? I think that's about it. Guys, if your leader's not where you want it to be on the list, just say something in the comment section below. Let's just please keep it respectful. Please keep it nice. Again, if you think a leader should change position with another leader or something like that, by all means, say something in the comment section below. Let's just please keep it respectful. Okay, so now let's dive straight into this. So we're looking at Eustace Kid right here on the far left. This is so Eustace Kid through green black Perona. That would be 41 through 50, right? So we got red purple Eustace Kid. We have green blue Zoro and Sanji. We have purple Foxy, black ST14 Luffy, red green Luffy, green blue Rosinante, green yellow Arlong, black yellow Lin, blue black Rebecca, and green black Perona. A lot of this stuff on this line here, people can argue for what's under it to be in its place. This was a hard one to do. I'm not going to lie, guys. The level 40 here and the level 50, so like numbers 31 through 50, those, from 31 to 50, those were hard to do because I could see arguments to push different leaders here and there. It's up to you, to be honest, guys, at the end of the day. If you want to argue like, no, I think green purple Dofi should be on this part, or Hannibal is going to be getting better soon, or Hody Jones or whatever, that's fine. You can have those arguments. This is just kind of where I placed them. But hear me out. I think red purple Eustace Kid, green blue Zoro and Sanji, red-green Luffy, and then green-yellow Arlong, I think they kind of have the most potential on this tier where I have them because they can be so aggressive, but they're all kind of around the same power level, I feel like, as everyone else on this tier. Blue-black Rebecca is probably a little bit better than it used to be now that it has the stuff from OP10, so maybe Rebecca moves to the top of this list. Maybe it peaks into the next area, and I'll say this as well. Once we get into OP11, okay, OP10 is what I was saying for Rebecca. I might have missaid that. You guys know what I mean. Hopefully you guys know what I mean. OP10 gave some more support to Dressrosa for blue and black. But hear me out. This Luffy right here might be moving up once we get into the OP11 area with this new Garp card that's coming out. This 8-cost Garp that's works out really well in this deck. Red purple Eustace Kid, green blue Zoro and Sanji, red green Luffy, and green yellow Arlong, though, like I was saying, I think they're going to be very strong. I do think green black Perona barely sneaks into the list. I think she's still very playable. She's just kind of nerfed, right? She just got nerfed pretty bad, though. She lost Gecko and she lost Ice Age. It's rough times. Everybody check on your green black Perona players, right? Make sure to check on your locals, your local players, your green black Perona players. Okay, they're going through a hard time right now. You got to be there for them. Black yellow Linlin has access to 10 Lin, and it can gain life. And it, I still think this leader's still very powerful. By no means in the top conversation, like in the top 20, 30, 40 conversation, but I would say this one barely sneaks into the list as well, around number 49 or 50. Green Blue Rosinante, it's getting some support in EV02, but I think it's just a solid leader, period. I think it's just one of those leaders. Green and blue is a pretty good card pool. You can do quite a bit with it, and being able to block and defend your smaller characters is a big deal. So yeah, seems good. And it has access to Hody Jones, which will give it some support in the future. Going into OP11 format, I think we're going to expect to see quite a bit of this leader. We'll talk about more in a minute, blue, purple, Luffy, and having access to green is going to be a very big deal. Then you also have access to 10 cost, 10 cost Doflamingo, but 8 cost Eustace Kid. It has a lot of options. Red, green, Luffy, and the other aggro decks I was talking about, they're just very, very hyper aggressive. I think they have a lot of potential. And then Foxy can just kind of steal wins from anybody, guys. Foxy Pirates are, I'm not saying they're the greatest deck out there, but they're also no joke, though, right? The Foxy Pirates is no joke. Okay, moving up to the next part of the tier list here. Let's see how clumsy I am trying to make this work. Okay, here we go. We got to do it the manual way, guys. I didn't have this already done. So bear with me for just a second, and we'll fix this up. There we go. So moving into the next part of the tier list, I think I'm actually going to move my camera as well. I'll move down to the bottom from here on. There we go. So moving on to the next part of this tier list, we're starting off with yellow Linlin. We got Buggy, yellow, just yellow Linlin, not black yellow. We got yellow Linlin, blue Buggy, red green Odin, green yellow Yamato, blue Nami, purple yellow Crocodile, purple black Luffy, blue yellow Ace, purple yellow Nico Robin, and black Gecko Moria. I personally do think Gecko Moria, the leader, of course, is better than Perona currently. First of all, it's a 5-life leader, and second of all, now that Gecko Moria and Ice Age are gone, being able to just rip cards from your trash constantly with the leader's effect, I think keeps Gecko Moria more in the conversation than it keeps Perona. That's just me personally. Purple Yellow Nico Robin, I still think, honestly, out of everything on this list, I personally think that Nico Robin can move to the top of it. Same thing, like at least in this tier, I do think these are probably the two best decks in this tier, is Yellow Linlin and Purple Yellow Nico Robin. I should say that too. When it comes to these, this bottom one, I think Rebecca and probably Green Blue Zoro and Sanji are the two best decks on this tier. That's just me personally. Okay, and then on this tier, the next one up at 40 here, so it'd be 31 through 40. I think Yellow Linlin and Purple Yellow Nico Robin have the most potential on this entire tier. We'll see how things go for Yamato and Buggy once we get access to the new starter decks. That will determine a lot on where I place these in the future. Red Green Odin, I think he's solid, but he gets some much needed support in EV02, but I still don't think he's going to be right where everyone needs or everyone wants this leader to be. I think he's still slightly underpowered compared to some of the other stuff we're going to look at in a moment. Nami has fallen pretty far down the list because I think the format has just gotten so aggressive. It's hard for Nami to keep up. But who knows, with Dofi going away, the format might slow down a little bit, and Nami might be able to move up the charts a little bit. We'll have to see what happens. Might be able to move up the tier list. Purple Yellow Crocodile, I think, is just incredibly good. I'm going to actually move him up even further than he was, because going into OP10, we have access to O Come My Way or O Come Away, where we can redirect attacks to Magellan, we can redirect attacks to Kikanojo, to Basil Hawkins, we can gain life with Yellow, we can even gain life with purple cards like the 9-Lin, the 8-cost Crocodile. This deck has a lot of potential, guys. I think it's just like largely unexplored. What else? Then we have, we already went over these. Purple Black Luffy. I'm going to move to the bottom of the top 40 now. Like right at 40, right? He's the number 40 card now on this list. Because I think he actually, losing Gecko Moria for him hurt him quite a bit. And he wasn't even the best deck to use Gecko Moria, but it was such a great part of his mid-game. Now I feel like, well, I say mid-game because he kind of ramps to it very aggressively. Now I think the game plan going forward with Purple Black Luffy is going to be to just slam down 10-cost Luffy, Time Warp Luffys, and go from there. That's just the whole game plan. We'll have to see, though. People might be able to convince me otherwise and move this up on the list. I don't know. Tell me what you guys think in the comment section below. Blue Yellow Ace, I never have had a great time with this card, but it's probably better than I'm giving it credit for. And they do seem to keep, like, how do I say this? It seems like Bandai keeps giving Blue Yellow Ace support, but then he just never moves up in the tier list. At least, or, like, I just never really see him like moving up anywhere or winning any big tournaments or anything like that. And it's not that it's a bad leader. It just, maybe it's the consistency of it. I'm not sure. You guys tell me what y'all think in the comment section below. But I'm not all in on Blue Yellow Ace, but I do think he's better than, you know, how do I say this? I think he's probably better than most of the decks under him on this tier list. Okay, let me just say it like that. Okay, so that's the tier 40 right there, or that's the 31 through 40 slots. Let's move up to the next one up. We got going into 30. This would be 21 through 30 is what's next. Okay, there we go. So now we have Red Yellow Sabo, Red Blue Marco, Yellow Calgara, Blue Dofi. We got Dofi in the top 30 now, like yeah, top 30. I don't know why that was so hard for me to think about. And then we have Green Uda, Green Yellow Law, Red ST21 Luffy, Red Purple Sugar, and Black Yellow Luffy. He's in the top 30 still, and same with Lucci. I do think these are still going to be very, like, let me move all these guys down here. This little three-man crew down here, Black Yellow Luffy, Lucci, and Dofi, Blue Doflamingo. They were running the show for quite some time, but those nerfs hit them pretty hard. I have tried to make Dofi work since the nerfs, and it is not easy, guys. I'm going to tell you right now. I mean, maybe he needs to be further up on the list. Maybe Lucci needs to be further up on the list. But then Black Yellow Luffy in particular, I think, is struggling quite a bit. He's still going to be playable, but I think he's kind of fallen around the same level as Green Yellow Trafalgar Law, where you're going to be able to do tricks as long as you have cards to use. But then you kind of start running out of gas or something. In fact, Green Yellow Law doesn't really run out of gas like I think Black Yellow Luffy might, because Green Yellow Trafalgar Law is just going to keep pulling cards back to the from the board to draw more cards with the searchers, whereas Black Yellow Luffy, they can only pull cards out of life for as long as they can, you know, use their 2-cost characters. But Green Yellow Law can infinitely just continue to pull back cards. It's just part of the kit. Just like how Black Yellow Luffy can infinitely gain life. Well, you can't gain life if they don't let you go down to 0. And if you can't go down to 0, you need your own means to go down to 0. You need to be able to do it by yourself. And that's where it gets kind of complicated for Black Yellow Luffy. And I do think he's kind of fallen a little further down the list than, you know, some of the others did, like Blue Dofi and Black Lucci. We'll talk about those more in a minute. Red Purple Sugar, I think, should be higher up on this part of the list, maybe like probably around here somewhere. Red Yellow Sabo and Red Blue Marco, I think, are very good. They're probably just out of the top 20 conversation. Red Yellow Sabo in particular is, now that Blue Dofi has been nerfed a bit by losing Jinbei, Red Yellow Sabo, all of a sudden, like, that was one of our harder matchups for some of the, it depends on which deck you're running for Red Yellow Sabo. But for one of our decks, that was basically our worst matchup. Like, I think it was the Trigger Rush list. Blue Dofi was one of our toughest matchups. Well, now, okay, if Dofi's going to fall down in the meta, Red Yellow Sabo can really do some things now. Red Yellow Sabo can really make stuff happen. So we'll have to look out for that. Red Blue Marco, I think, is going to get really good going into OP11. I think Red Blue Marco plus Honesty Impact, you're basically going to have a 6 Dawn Rayleigh now and an 8 Dawn Rayleigh now. You know, you have Rayleigh is normally 8 Dawn, and now with Honesty Impact, it's like a 6 Dawn version of Rayleigh without the body. And you can hit even bigger targets than you could hit with Rayleigh because it's just an event. It's not it doesn't have a body that goes with it. But either way, Red Blue Marco, I think, is going to be doing pretty well. Red Purple Sugar. Really a good deck, and I think a lot of people are sleeping on this deck. I think it's better than people realize. Calgara, I think, has been good for a while. It's just outside the top 20 conversation, in my opinion, but it's still very good. Lucci, I think, is still solid. We could probably push him to the top of you know, like just out of the top 20 conversation, like we're saying, like maybe he's like number 21 through 24 somewhere. He's probably somewhere in that ballpark. I do think Lucci is still very good, but I'm going to put him right behind Marco for now. I think he's probably like 20, you know, 21, 22, probably around 23, somewhere around there. Green Uda, now that Lucci has been, you know, I'm going to push her up next to Lucci because really, I think Green Uda might have a chance to shine here pretty soon, guys. If some of the more removal-intensive decks are going to start falling off, and you know, I mean, I don't know how to say it. I think Green Uda is going to be fine. We'll have to see what happens. It probably needs to be, you know, there probably needs to be some adjustments made because I do think you're going to want to run something like Hody Jones in any green deck. If we can make that work in Green Uda, there could be some potential there. We talked about Sugar, Calgar. We talked a little bit about Dofi. I don't know how many people are even going to play Dofi anymore because the deck just does not feel the same without Jinbei. I think most people will leave Doflamingo and it will drop him down further. And I think most people will leave Dofi for Boa Hancock. Maybe not. I don't know. In fact, we'll probably make a few revisions towards the end of the list because I have Boa like probably higher than I wanted her after thinking about it. But I'm curious to see what you guys think about that in the comment section below. Green Yellow Trafalgar Law, I want this deck to be better than it is. But after doing more and more testing, I have this somewhere right around, it's probably a little higher than it probably needs to be a little bit higher, like somewhere around 25, 26 on my list. I just think there's better options out there right now. And this Green Yellow Trafalgar Law, in order to win, the amount of like, I don't know how to say it, just the brain power needed to compute what you need to survive each turn and to win on the crackback and things like that. It's going to require practice, of course, to master, but I feel like there are just better decks out there right now, guys. I really honestly feel that way, and I'm still going to be pursuing Green Yellow Trafalgar Law on the channel, but we're kind of in that red yellow Sabo predicament. I'll put him up there next to him for now. We're kind of in this same predicament here where it's like, okay, the leader is on the verge. He's on the cusp of greatness, but it seems like something else is out there that's just a little bit better than him. So we'll see what happens over time. ST21 Luffy, I will move that up as well. I think ST21 Luffy is a really solid deck right out of the starter box. You know, I mean, I'm not saying you should play it just out of the starter box, but I think it's a good starting point for people getting into the game. It has a very strong aggressive rush package, and I don't think it'll be that hard to upgrade the list to make it even stronger if you want to become more competitive, more serious with the game. And for the people who are more competitive and serious, I could see this leader stealing a lot of wins from people that they did not see coming. Okay, so that's good stuff there. And then I think that's about it. I am still working on a black-yellow Luffy list, guys. I think Luffy can probably sneak back into the top 20 conversation, but I don't know if he's going to be able to get into the top 10. We'll have to see what happens. So, now, getting into the top 20 now, guys. It's getting good. Starting to get really good now. Getting into the top 20. We're looking at the best decks in the format now. Especially this top 20. I would say the top 30 was probably where we started getting into the decks that were just absolutely like the best in the game, the best in the format. But top 20 now and going into top 10, that's where you start seeing the real like juggernauts. I think what we're going to expect to see a lot of in the format, you know, in the more competitive scene. So we got Yellow Eustace Kid right at the front there. Yellow Eustace Kid, barely outside of the top 10, maybe should be in the top 10 conversation. We'll talk more about that. You know, I'll probably have a whole entire video coming out soon on Yellow Eustace Kid. That leader is incredible, but I do think there's one yellow leader that's slightly, a little tiny bit better than Eustace Kid, and we'll talk about that when we get to the top 10 part. But then we have Purple Yellow Pudding. Pretty straightforward deck list here. You're going to slam down, you're going to ramp as fast as you can and slam down the biggest characters you can. And then you're just going to look at your opponent and say, hey, GLHF, good luck, have fun, man. And if they got it, they got it. If they don't, they don't. So really solid game plan there. And if there's not as much removal in the format, then Purple Yellow Pudding might start really taking off. Red Green Trafalgar Law. It's never out of the conversation. Every time I think this leader's out of the conversation, something happens and it pops back in. But in this situation, it was more or less with Black getting nerfed by losing Ice Age and Gecko Moria. If Black starts seeing a lot of, if it stops seeing as much play as it used to, then Red-Green Trafalgar Law can probably make its way back into the format and really start, causing some damage, start really picking up some steam. Next up is Blue-Black Usopp. Usopp is... he could probably be in the top 10. Don't worry, guys. Once we reveal the top 10 ones, we'll try to move some ones around. We'll try to do some talking. I'll tell you guys where my mind's at on some of these cards. But Blue-Black Usopp is very, very strong. I could easily see him moving higher up in the list, maybe even in front of the Eustace Kid or somewhere right in between Eustace Kid and Pudding. Somewhere in whoops, what just happened to him? What just happened to the use? Oh, somehow it flew all the way to the back there. That was weird, guys. When I let it go, it went all the way to the back. But anyway, Blue-Black Usopp is probably somewhere in this conversation. Okay, and then let me get this back so we don't get mixed up. So next up is Smoker. Smoker's doing better than Lucci is right now. At least in my opinion, I think Black Smoker is gonna be doing better than Black Lucci at OP07 Lucci, because I think having access to Shigi and even ST19 Sengoku, letting you fill up your trash a little bit and then cycle through cards in your hand. I think Smoker's just the best mono black deck in the game right now outside of Blackbeard. That's just my personal opinion. Tell me what you guys think in the comment section below. Next up is Green Purple Limb. If removal keeps kind of, how do I say this? If there's not as much removal in the format, all of a sudden Green Purple Limb is probably going to start busting people up, right? You're going to start beating people down. Next up is Enel. I think Enel is still very viable. Probably needs to be higher up on the list, to be honest. Maybe around like 15 or so. Because even without all the removal, you have to understand, like, okay, yes, Enel lost Raigo. But Black lost Gecko Moria and Ice Age. So now it's going to come down to, okay, if I can just fill the board out with these massive characters, excuse me, if I could just fill out the board with these massive characters, what's my opponent supposed to do? My leader effect still does what it does. The only thing that's really holding Enel back right now, at least in my personal opinion, is its matchup into Blackbeard. Okay, Blackbeard I think is what will really hold Enel back in the future, depending on how popular that leader will be going forward. Talking about Blackbeard. Okay, next up is, well, I moved Lim out of the way, excuse me. So next up is Red Purple Luffy. Red Purple Luffy is, I think his days are numbered. I think once Blue Purple Luffy hits the field in OP11, I think Red Purple Luffy just falls by the wayside. But I don't know. You guys tell me what y'all think about that in the comment section below. I'll have to ask my guy Kane about that one. Gear 5 Productions. He's like a Red Purple Luffy main. I'll have to see what he thinks about Blue Purple Luffy moving forward. Does Red Purple Luffy survive that kind of change? I have no idea. We'll have to see. But until then, I think this is still a very strong deck because it has a good matchup into one of the best decks in the entire game right now, which is Shanks, so it does very well. Okay, so Red Purple Luffy seems like it could be doing just fine. Next up is Yellow Vegapunk. Vegapunk is a sleeper. It's just a solid deck, and I think the more aggressive version. Let me speak about Enel real quick too. Speaking of Vegapunk and Enel, if you build them more aggressively, like Enel, if you build more with the Sky Island package, and Vegapunk, if you build a more low to the ground aggressive package, I think that's your best bet going forward. Because do we really want to go into the late game with the decks like Blackbeard, who have like some of the best 10 cost characters we've ever seen printed, or even Shanks, who has like again some of the best 10 cost characters we've ever seen printed? I don't know if we want to do that. I think we should stay more aggressive, especially if we're playing yellow right now, because now Raigo's gone. So I think Vegapunk can still do some stuff there. And then Blue Purple Reiju. I think Blue Purple Reiju is it's still solid. This one can probably go down a tier. I'm going to be honest. It probably can sneak down a tier, but I do think it's still a very solid deck. And now that there's not as much removal going on, who knows? Maybe it should actually go up a tier. You never know, right? We'll have to see. Okay, well, that's it for Tier 20, guys. Now, going into the top tier. Let me go ahead and remove this. All right, guys, so there's the top 10 right there. We got, I'm sure most people could have figured the last 10 out from here, from what was not already on the list. But we got Red Shanks, Black Marshall D. Teach, Green Purple Luffy. That's what people are calling Grape Luffy, Green Purple Luffy from EV02. And then Purple Luffy, Green Jory Bonnie, Yellow Katakuri, Red Zoro, Red Yellow Bello Betty, Blue Boa Hancock, and Red Green Smoker. Now, hear me out real quick. I think most people will, how do I say this? okay, we don't have green purple Luffy just yet. That comes out in EB02, which is not out at the time you're recording this. So that you can just purple Luffy kind of takes the place of it then. And I do think once green purple Luffy is out of the, or once green purple Luffy is released, purple Luffy does fall down a little bit. Maybe we'll have to see what happens. But okay, one thing I will say that is pretty nice about this top 10 here is notice this. Every color is represented with a 5-life leader the way that I have this. Some people might have some disputes about Boa Hancock. That's fine. But red has Shanks, green has Bonnie, blue has Boa, purple has Luffy, black has Blackbeard, and yellow has Katakuri. Okay, now some last minute revisions I would consider making here. Actually, let me walk through all these real quick just so we can summarize and I can make some last second revisions. I think Shanks and Blackbeard and Purple Luffy and Bonnie, they're just well known at this point. They are established leaders, right? They are established at this point, and we can expect how good they are. I already talked about Green Purple Luffy. There's not much to talk about there. We have to wait for that to come out. That doesn't come out for us until EB02. Yellow Katakuri we do have to talk about. So Yellow Katakuri was, from what I understand, I think it struggled against like Blue Doflamingo, like going very wide, and then okay, you slam down a yellow, or excuse me, a 10 cost yellow Lin, the tin Lin, and then it just gets Rygoed off the board, or it gets hit with a Ice Age and some type of removal. Okay, those things are gone now, right? The going wide with Doflamingo, and then Ice Age is gone, Rygo's gone. So I do think that Katakuri can make I think he can make a resurgence here back into the top tier of the format. I wouldn't sleep on that leader. Tell me what you guys think about it in the comments section below, but I think Yellow becomes the best leader in the game. And like I was saying earlier, I actually think that Yellow Eustace Kid is not far off. And I'll do a little bit of last minute moving once we're done with this top tier. But yeah, Katakuri, guys, keep your eye on him. Zoro is just... It's always been the aggro rush deck that can keep all the slower decks in check. It's like, okay, if people are just going to try to slow the game down too much, we'll just run them over, right? It's the good old fashioned Mike Tyson quote. Everyone's got a game plan. Everyone's got a game plan until they get punched in the mouth, right? Everyone's got a game plan until they get punched in the face. Okay, so that's kind of the idea with Zoro. Same idea with Bello Betty. I think Bello Betty and Zoro are probably in the same area of just like this hyper-aggressive deck that can really knock the doors down. Okay, Blue Boa, I think this is now the premier blue deck. Some people might say Usopp, and we're about to make a few revisions in just a minute here. But I think, Usopp's blue and black. But as far as like the premier blue deck goes, if you're just trying to play blue, I think your best bet is going to be Boa Hancock or potentially Buggy. Okay, or Nami, but that's a little bit different. That's like an alternate win condition. But Boa Hancock and Buggy, we'll have to see what happens with Buggy after the new starter decks get released. And then last but not least, we got Red Green Smoker. I think just having access to such incredible tools like the 8-cost Eustace Kid, and then it also has, excuse me, this leader has the best synergy with one of the new most broken characters in the game. I don't want to say broken, but one of the most overtuned characters in the game, the new 5-cost 7K Smoker. It's a green card that allows you to stand up a Dawn. The leader allows you to stand up 2 more Dawn if you have a 7,000 power or higher character on the board. And then you also get Tashigi in this package. They're getting buffed on the board. This leader was built to do very well. That's all I'm going to say, guys, especially with the bans and restriction, or the bans coming in. Nerfing black in the way they did, getting rid of Rygo. It just, and even messing with Blue Doflamingo, making it where they don't have Jinbei anymore. I think it really is going to allow Red Green Smoker to do some things. It was already doing some pretty good stuff beforehand, but now it's going to be even stronger potentially. We'll have to see what happens there. Now, last minute revisions here, last minute, moving cards around. I personally would like to put Yellow Eustace Kid at the very end of the top 10 category. Let me even move it like this. I'm even going to move Blue Black Usopp up into this category as well. And I'm gonna drop Bello Betty down a ways, and I'll probably even move. Maybe I will put Zoro slightly above that. Okay, maybe this is right. Maybe this is more like where I'm going, like in my mind. Maybe Smoker needs to be in that spot. You guys tell me what y'all think. And I'm gonna move my head out of the way as well for this part. So this is kind of where I think things are in my mind. Like, this is where I would like things to be at. My heart is telling me that Blue Black Usopp and Yellow Eustace Kid should be up here in the top tier, and I just don't think Red Green Smoker should be. Maybe it should be at the very top of this, or hang on, we'll even do this. This is probably what most people think, if I had to guess, just judging by, you know, comments I read and just kind of reading everyone's reactions and things like that, hearing what people are saying. I feel like people do think Red Green Smoker is in the top tier, and it probably is now that Black has been nerfed in the way it has. However, I do think Eustace Kid is one of those decks that I'm going to be putting out a video on this sometime soon, hopefully. I think Eustace Kid, Yellow Eustace Kid, has some real potential. Blue Black Usopp, solid deck. And then everything above it, this is, I would say this is your top tier right here. Is Shanks, Blackbeard, Purple Luffy. Let's not talk about Green Purple Luffy just yet. This one right here, we're going to skip over that for now because that's EV02. But Red Shanks, Blackbeard, Purple Luffy, Green Bonnie, Yellow, and yellow Katakuri. So there you go. Red, green, yellow, black, and purple. And then if you really, really want to play blue in OP10, you have two really strong options between Boa Hancock or even blue-black Usopp. That's just my personal opinion. Okay? You guys tell me what y'all think in the comments section below. Okay? Now, we got one more thing to talk about. Where does OP11 fit into all this? We don't have a whole lot to talk about with OP11, but I do think there are some leaders that start to enter into this conversation. And I think, and then it does move up the list quite a bit because I think Hody Jones will probably move into the list if that happens. And we have to clear up some spots here. So first of all, Blue Purple Luffy moves to the very top. It moves to the absolute tippity top. It's all the way at the very front here. And then some things will probably move down at that point. I think Purple Luffy falls down at that point. And then at that point, maybe even, I don't know, it's hard to say. Some other things will get moved around as well. Just bear with me for a second, guys. But Blue Purple Luffy definitely goes up into the very top conversation. I'll drop Purple Luffy all the way off to the side over here, showing he kind of is the one that falls off. Because why would you run Purple Luffy when you have access to Green Purple Luffy and Blue Purple Luffy? Okay, then after that, I do think Blue Yellow Nami enters into the top 20 conversation. Okay, Blue Yellow Nami all the way over here, I think enters into the top 20 conversation. And something else interesting happens where, okay, Red Purple Luffy, since Blue Purple Luffy enters into the format, and Green Purple Luffy for that matter, I think Red Purple Luffy kind of falls off. So again, the ones over on the far left here, or the far right rather, these are kind of falling out when these other ones enter in. Next up is Purple Katakuri. He probably should be in this top 30 category. I'm not going to lie, guys. I think, or top 20 rather, I think Purple Katakuri goes into the top 20 conversation. We'll have to see. I would have to move some things around at that point. Maybe Vegapunk drops down at that point, and we put Purple Katakuri into here. I would even have Purple Katakuri over Blue Yellow Nami. I know a lot of people probably don't like that idea, but that's just how I feel, guys. That's where my mind's at. I'm going to drop Blue Dofi down a little bit further because we are going to need to move Red Black Kobe into probably the top 30 conversation. And then Jinbei might be able to sneak into the top 50. I don't know. Let me do this like this. Hang on. We'll put we'll even drop Dofi off the list, guys, and we'll put Hody Jones in there for whenever the Fishman stuff comes into the game. Did I already move it? Where did it go? I've got to be looking right past here it is, Hody Jones. There we go. So I think this is probably where things might end up. This ends up being a top you know, more than a top 50 list here. What is it? 55. This ends up being a top 55 list at this point. But I would see it as like these. Let me move this to there. So I have the Gecko on the far right there. These leaders will probably fall off at this point. And I do think the OP11 leaders will come in and kind of sit where they're at over here on the far left. In fact, let me just move some of this stuff, guys. Sorry, we're moving Perona, then we're moving Gecko, we're moving Black Yellow Luffy, Red Purple Luffy, and Purple Luffy down. Have fun in the comment section with that if you want to, but all I'm trying to show with this this last part here of the OP11 is I'm just trying to say that I think this is where Blue Purple Luffy will fall into the meta. I think Purple Katakuri and Blue Yellow Nami will fall into the top 20 area. Red Black Kobe will probably find his way into the top 30 area, and then Jinbei might go to the top 50, at which point Hody Jones might, you know, or top 40 rather for Jinbei, and then maybe Hody can get in there as well. We'll see, because there is some decent support coming out, right? Good stuff. I do want to put Black Yellow Luffy back in here somewhere, because I don't think he just falls off. But I guess, see, that's the thing, guys. It's hard to say, because I'm not saying Purple Luffy will just be a bad deck anymore. It's just other decks will be probably more what people gravitate towards within the same idea. All right, that's it. I'm done. Tell me what you guys thought about this. This was a fun new format we tried out today. I enjoyed it. Tell me what you guys thought in the comment section below. Let me make my camera a little bit bigger for the outro here. I'm really curious to see what you guys think, especially for us over here in the Western OP10 and maybe some predictions going into OP11. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Yeah. That's it. Please be nice in the comment section. That's all I ask, guys. Please be nice down there. Now, let's get the outro going so we can finish this up. Guys, please don't forget to like and subscribe if you've not already. Thank you to all the supporters, guys. Hey, guys, whether you're liking, subscribing, sharing, commenting, just viewing my stuff, it helps me out big time. Thank you so much. Guys, if you're supporting me through Patreon, PayPal, donations, getting the playmat, becoming a member on YouTube, being part of the Discord community, using my TCG affiliate link, however you're helping me out, I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you. All right, I'm done. I'm done yapping. Hope you all enjoyed. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please do not hesitate to put those down in the comment section below. And until next time, guys, peace.